Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek and welcome back to my channel. So after a long time, Amazon launched a very interesting feature for S3 and it is called S3 files. Let's first try to understand in a nutshell what exactly is S3 files. Then let's try to understand the problem statement before and why S3 files is considered as a game changer in the space of object storage. So first of all, what is this S3 files at all? Imagine you have an S3 bucket. Now using S3 files, you can mount S3 as a file system onto the compute devices like EC2. So basically, on your EC2 instance, you can mount S3 bucket at a mount point, maybe slash mnt slash S3. You can cd to this directory. You can change your existing directory to this folder, and you can start accessing the files within the S3 bucket or objects within the S3 bucket. You can modify them. If you want, you can add new ones, you can remove, and these changes are reflected in the S3 bucket. The same way, if someone modifies the S3 bucket, the changes are reflected at the mount point in the EC2 instance. So this is really cool. Now you might say, but Abhishek, we used to do the same thing with EBS. Today we can do the same thing with EFS as well. Then why is this so special? You have to understand EBS is a block storage. EFS is a file storage. But S3 is basically an object storage. Now, till date, this used to be a limitation with object storages. Not only S3, object stores on Azure, blob storage, or the buckets on Google Cloud Platform. For every object storage, this used to be a limitation. You cannot mount an object storage just like your EBS or EFS. But Abhishek, we used to do this before within our organization. Now there are some indirect ways. For example, S3FS used to be a solution, but it's not a direct solution. For example, when you use S3FS, what used to happen using S3FS, if you mount S3 bucket onto your EC2 instance, it used to be a virtual mounting where whenever you try to perform an operation, let's say you try to list the files. You switch to the directory and you ran S3FS command, the listing files command. It would list the files from the S3, but it used to perform this operation indirectly. What it used to do? It used to run an API call to the S3 bucket. Similarly, when you try to modify file, again, it used to run the API command to add a new object to the S3 bucket, right? So this is how it used to work. So it's not a direct method. It used to be an indirect method and not very reliable. If you see the cloud providers, they did not recommend this approach because it's not a very recommended approach or reliable approach. But Abhishek, why is this limitation at all? When EBS used to support it, when EFS used to support it, why is this limitation with object storages? The problem is that traditionally with object storages, you cannot update a file. For example, let's say within your S3 bucket, you stored, you created a folder, and within the folder you have file 1, file 2, file 3, etc. With object storages, it is not possible that you pick up file 2 and you update the file 2. It's not possible. What you have to do, if you want to update file 2, you have to create a new version of the file 2. You have to delete this and you have to add a new file 2. Basically, updating is not possible, replacing is possible. This is the basic behavior of the object storage. So Amazon worked it around. What they did, they launched a solution called S3 files. Internally, it is using EFS, but that's something we are not very bothered as DevOps engineers or cloud engineers, but internal implementation is that S3 files is using EFS and it provides a way where you can mount S3 bucket as a file system and you can deal with it just like how you deal EBS or EFS. That's the major USP of this feature. Once again, the bottom line is that you can take an S3 bucket, you can go to your EC2 instance, just create a mount point, mount the S3 bucket, CD to the directory, start listing the files, modifying the files, adding new files, updating, deleting, whatever is possible. The same way, if someone updates the S3 bucket, same is reflected directly on the EC2 instance. But Abhishek, as someone who wants to use this feature, what are the changes for me? So basically, you will do the same thing, just like how you used to create bucket. So you will continue to create the same way, general purpose bucket. You can see here I have multiple buckets. And once the bucket is created, the next thing that you have to do, so you can clearly see here, there is an option called new. So you have to go here and click on adding a new file system. This is a critical part. And this is going to take close to 5 to 10 minutes. So you just have to click on create new file system and provide the general purpose bucket that you have created. For example, you have your application configuration file. Okay. Or in the S3 bucket, you have, let's say, you're working on machine learning and you have CSV files, the data training thing, right? Or you have Kubernetes manifests that you have put in the S3 buckets. You can just scroll and provide the name of the S3 bucket. And once this is done, you click on the create file system and you get, so this is the one that I created earlier. So you get mount targets. This is the one that is going to take time, 5 to 10 minutes. You will have mount targets in each of the availability zone. For example, I'm using AP South 1. So I have one mount target in AP South 1 availability zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. Now, wherever you create the EC2 instance, or you create an EC2 instance and let's say it is created in AP South 1 AZ1, then this is the mount target that you are going to use. Perfect. So this is the only change that you have to do. And then there are set of commands that you have to run, which is documented in this AWS link. But let me tell you, I'm trying this feature within hours of AWS launching it. And right now, they are still working on the documentation. Some part of the documentation is updated, but still there are a lot of things which are missing in this complete S3 file documentation. Probably this is going to take 1 or 2 days for them. And once the complete documentation is ready, I'll come up with a project and I'll explain you how someone or how a DevOps engineer development team can use this feature in the real time. For now, the popular use cases are going to be application manifests, for example, configuration file, or maybe your Nginx configuration file, you can store in the S3 bucket. Or if you're into MLOps, the popular use case is the CSV files. For example, you are running the continuous training and you have your CSV files in the S3 bucket, which is a very popular thing. Apart from that, your Kubernetes manifest or your Ansible configuration, your database related files, that can also be stored in the S3 bucket. Perfect. So this is the information for now, S3 files. Now the advantage here is that because AWS has implemented it, there is a good possibility Azure is also going to do it and Google Cloud Platform is also going to do it. And as end users, we can enjoy the cost benefit because we all know S3 is a very cheap storage service. When you compare it with EBS or when you compare it with EFS, S3 is a very cheap storage service, and also the durability of S3 is very, very high. It comes with 99.11 of durability. So your data that you push to S3 is almost never lost and replicated to different availability zones. That's all I have for today's video. If you have any questions, I know this is very new when it comes to this feature. A lot of you might want to try it, but I would recommend please wait for at least 1 to 2 days. And then I'll paste the links in the description. The links are going to be the same thing because AWS won't change the links for their documentation. So probably after 1 to 2 days, you can try the steps that are mentioned here. See you all in the next video and please share it with AWS aspirants that you know. Take care, everyone.